Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 17 of Words on Whiskey, brought to you by Irish Whiskey Magazine. As always, we're going to kick off with the news, and I suppose the very sad news that the Tullamore Jew Visitor Centre will be closing, potentially with the loss of 14 jobs. So obviously, COVID would have had a big impact, but also perhaps they want to consolidate the visitor centre with the distillery experience. And William Grants have said that next summer they will be incorporating a visitor experience on site in their distillery, which will be a more immersive experience for the visitor. So sad news for those that are going to lose their job, potentially 14, as I said, that are. But William Grants, Gary Moore quoted that through our plans to relocate the visitor centre experience to the distillery with its new state-of-the-art facilities, we'll be in a better position to provide a new, rich and immersive experience for visitors. We remain committed to the town of Tullamore, and through our proposal to create a new visitor experience, we look forward to continuing to do our part to boost the local economy in the years ahead. I mean, they've made a very serious financial investment in Tullamore. It's 100 million, building the distillery, the bottling, the maturation, every element of it there. So hopefully those 14 jobs, the people will be relocated and maybe take part in the experience that will be available next summer. So other than that, new release from Clonakilty. So Clonakilty Distillery has collaborated with 4 US breweries to bring a series of exclusive releases. The majority are destined for the US, but there's a couple of hundred of each almost that are available in their distillery and on the Clonakilty Distillery website. They're retailing for €85, and there's availability from 75 bottles up to 150 bottles of each one. So that'll be interesting. And I suppose the biggest news of the week, and it's going on now and getting very intense over the last while, has been the revelations around the Whiskey Bible. And really, we can't ignore the elephant in the room. So we do have a position on it. The news really broke last week with the article in Forbes magazine. We are the official distributors for Whiskey Bible in Ireland, or we were. So we have cancelled that distribution, and last week we actually removed the Bible completely from the store. So as soon as the news broke, it's not really a question of free speech. It's a question of respect and open opportunities for everybody in the whiskey industry. And it's just not something that we really want to be associated with. And so we have terminated all partnerships with the Whiskey Bible. It's unfortunate because we did have a nice working relationship, but as I said, I can't condone that kind of language that has been used in the Bible. So, I mean, I'm glad it was brought up and brought to our attention. So thanks for that. Other than that, we do have our guest this week and a friend and president of the Irish Whiskey Society, Brian Greene. So let's bring him in here.
Oh,
good evening. Good evening, Brian.
Nice to see you. How are you?
I'm very well, very well. How are you?
Yeah, not bad. Just finished getting this month's tasting sorted out this week. So that's gone out to everybody today. So yeah, so
it's almost a full-time job being president, I presume.
Well, it's got its moments. So I've got a great team of people that help. So lots of people to rely on, and it's voluntary. So it's all about trying to enjoy it as well. So yeah, not too much like work.
And if I'm not mistaken, it is the largest Irish Whiskey Society in the country. How many members do you currently have?
So we've about 380 members now at the moment. So that's up from last year. I think we had about 310. So we've sort of grown organically, and also with the interest in Irish whiskey, that's sort of new generation of people have come in over the last few years as well. It's growing. We have a chapter down in Dingle, run by Peter White and Finn MacDonald from Dick Mack's and they run events down there in that part of the country as well. So, but yeah, busy chapter and down there, and then organization itself is growing.
Yeah. Well, what's the aim of the society? I mean,
we've
the overall aim?
Yeah, set objectives is to try and promote Irish whiskey, share Irish whiskey with people who are interested responsibly, and then introduce people to various styles of whiskey from Ireland and around the world, and then also to try and help people learn a little bit more. And I think the main thing is really it's a social club as well. We're here to try and engage people, make friends. So they're the key things we're here for.
And at the moment, at the moment is not a good time, not a good question, but how are things now with COVID? Obviously, social meetings are out of the question. So how have you been coping with the COVID restrictions?
Yes, at the moment it's it's been interesting. When this happened in March, we just about 2 days after the WHO announced that it was a global pandemic, we were about to have a very special tasting with Leo Phelan and put together all about paddy whiskey through the decades. So we lined up a full range of paddy whiskey from the beginning all the way up to modern times. But when that was announced, we basically pulled the plug and refunded everybody and said we'll put it on again when this all calms down. Clearly, it hasn't all calmed down yet. So yeah, we had to really rethink what happened. So we took a month or two to try and see what would take place, and then we investigated maybe how would we move online.
Yeah. And I can see, for anybody that's not a member or is not familiar with the Irish Whiskey Society, it's irishwhiskeysociety.com is their website. And obviously, there's a lot of work gone into that lately. I can see, there's facilities there for members. There's podcasts up there. There's reading material. There's reference books that have been reviewed. Also, so who's been working on putting all those together? And
we had a talk together to see, with the different technologies that we have to hand, how could we try and maybe do a virtual tasting online, and then what other items, as we were all locked down completely during the time, what could we do like at home for people? So we all went through our whiskey book collections and said, well, I've enjoyed reading this, so we put links to all the books so where people could get them or maybe read them online or put them on their Kindle or whatever. Then we went and looked for different podcasts, so you're listed on there, of course, as are all the different ones that are around in Ireland and around the world. We looked for videos that were online, so went through a whole list of things like the RTE archive. There's great footage on the archive of things like people on the roof of John's Lane with the big grass.
Yeah, I know, it's amazing footage.
Yeah. So there's loads of resources there, but to go look for it, is sometimes a challenge. So we took a project on, and so myself and Dean, Colin, and then Bart and Jack and everyone else sort of jumped in to recommend things to look at and share with everybody.
Yeah. Oh, what's the way the society is organized? Do you presume you have committee members and then you have members and?
So it's organized. There's a team of people who meet once a month, and then we keep in contact, over email. And the idea is we have a meeting to think about what events we can have. Look at progress on casks and bottlings, and then other things that might affect the society or ideas that we might have about trying to get member benefits or maybe think about going on trips or connecting out with people in the industry. So there's a group core team, so it's voluntary. So we all take time out to do it. Everyone is really an equal member. That's how it's all built around. So when you join the Irish Whiskey Society, there's an archive of bottles, and all the events and tastings are there. So I pay for any events that I attend, so I have to buy my ticket as well, and it's just
not exempt, no.
No, so that's how it works, So if you're presenting now, if you're presenting a tasting, well then that's that you get a ticket, as a gratitude for the effort of putting presentations and talking together on it. Sure. But no, we all have to line up and queue and get our ticket. But so the idea is that it's a shared resource for everybody, and that we're open to feedback. I'm always sending out every newsletter we send out. We look for people to kind of feedback in and see what are we going in the right direction, or is anyone any ideas, or is anyone any questions?
Yeah. Is there a profile of your members? Like, has that changed over the years? Is it
I suppose.
experts, novices, male, female? What
Yeah,
way
well,
is
I mean,
that?
at the beginning, it was small at the beginning. So, I mean, I sat down with some of the people who, sat in bows that first night and talked about what are we going to do? Do we want to have a group together? And it's grown from there. So it's amazing to see, over 10 years ago now, everyone sitting upstairs in bows and deciding that they'd put a society together. So, I mean, I only joined in 2018. I had a bit of free time on my hands in 2018, so I joined up and wasn't sure what I was letting myself in for. Didn't know what to expect. I think the first tasting I went to was down in Pierce Lyons. Actually, Pierce Lyons had opened recently, and they'd organised a tasting to visit and try some whiskies afterwards. So I went along, not being an expert at all in whiskey or anything, but had an interest in it. Wasn't sure what to expect, but I got chatting to a few people, and it seemed quite nice. And I said, "Oh, sure, I'll keep going along to this," and I joined up.
Yeah, I mean, as a member myself, it is great to be able to try and learn so much about different whiskies, but it's very much a social event as well. I mean, you get to meet a lot of people, people with common interests, and it's not all whiskey. It is very much a social event.
For sure, yeah, and I got involved on the committee sort of late in 2018. They were looking for a volunteer to help out at the events, so I put myself forward and was helping out Mirren at the time, just around when the gala was taking place. And then I sort of took on the events role then in 2019 and sort of looked at how we were running, how the whiskey was planned. And then, with the great advice from the people around the committee already, decided to go, well, maybe we'll try and do a few mid-month tastings, where maybe we got a very focused point. So we did a great tasting with Leo Phelan, who put together. Leo Phelan, one of the previous presidents, and a great knowledgeable person on whiskey. Assisted and put something called a trad pot, like Middleton trad pot style tasting together, which was really, really, really interesting. A great evening. And when that was so successful, so it sold out in about 3 or 4 minutes.
I remember that. Yeah.
Well, maybe we could do some more. So we looked at a few different ones. We did a great rye tasting. So Fionn O'Connor, again, everyone, all these people are so giving of their time and advice. It's great. Put a wish list of rye whiskey expressions that he'd like to have at a tasting. So I went, okay, well, let's go and see if I can try and track these down. So sometimes some of them take a few weeks to put together, others take a few months. We did an Isla tasting earlier this year, again, Fionn and Jim Clark and Ian McMillan, one of the ex-distillers from Isla, came over and that took over a year to put together, trying to get all the lineup that Fionn was looking for on it. So it's a great, trying to look for these bottles and make sure we get them on and make sure people enjoy them, and then allow people to try something that maybe would kind of be impossible to try and do on your own. Like, and some of the bottles we get are very challenging. There we go. So there's
so that was that tasting. Yeah,
that's right. I mean, that's a great lineup.
I think it's important. It's not just Irish whiskey that you do tastings of. You have introduced, I think, probably more so than before, but there's definitely a variety of world whiskies. So the Scotch, the American bourbons, ryes.
Yeah. So it is, and it's allowed people to try something that maybe they mightn't try ordinarily. We had a great experience this month with High Spirits, who are going to do a bourbon tasting for us.
A Buffalo Trace, I saw that, yeah.
Yeah. So Buffalo Trace expressions, going through something called Mash Bill Number 1, which is a bourbon with a low rye in it. Now, I don't know what any of that meant about 2 or 3 years ago, but having to get to talk to people and learn about it, it's great, And again, the membership are so knowledgeable and so giving of their time. So if I ever have a question, I can pop an email out to somebody or pick up the phone and talk to someone, and I'll get a great guidance and a great feedback. So it's a great privilege to be involved.
Yeah, Mick McGuire there just saying how knowledgeable everybody is, or
absolutely, yeah.
And they are very giving of their time. So it's brilliant. And for a novice, I mean, I joined as a novice many years ago, and maybe not 10, but certainly many years ago. And it's changed now. It's become a bit more approachable, I think, Brian, now under your realm, and a bit more open than it was. And if I don't mind you saying so, it's definitely more organized. than
Well,
it
I mean,
used to be. Yeah.
I got great backup from everyone who was on the committee to help organize the events a little bit, and it was about it was about trying to see, well, maybe it's just that we have more events on, so it might look like there's more happening. So again, we have to try and balance that as well, because again, it's a voluntary position, so we're all trying to work out how to work it out in our free time as well. But like when we had our in-person events, it was great. You'd have an evening in Wynn, so organizing the bottles and the presenters, might take a little bit of time, but on the night, everyone was all hands on deck, and great. Even the members would be great and get involved, and were help pouring it all out while everyone was queuing at the door before they got in, and and again, trying to get the social aspect. And we had great evenings out. We had a lovely evening in bar 1661. We had a lovely cocktail whiskey and cocktail night. It was a lovely social evening, and then again after Graham Cool, distiller down in Dingle, put on a great Spirit of Speyside festival for us earlier this year. So he did it for us in Dingle, in the Dingle chapter, and then he came all the way up to Dublin, which was fantastic, and put it on for us up here. And then we all went back to the Dingle Whiskey Bar afterwards for a chat. And those are great evenings, rather than arriving and then disappearing,
No, I mean, there is definitely that social element. And you have a great relationship with all the distilleries and the industry, and with all the brand ambassadors. What is that relationship based on, and what do they bring to the party for you?
So it's really outreaching to see. We'll look at our events calendar, and when I was beginning, I was kind of go, what will I put on next? So luckily, the first event was sort of already pre-organized. Leo Phelan and Willie Murphy and Mirren had kind of started working on a 10-year-old whiskey tasting. So it was basically to celebrate 10 years of the Irish Whiskey Society. So we put on a load of 10-year whiskeys. So I was looking around for bottles. A few of them were laid down already. Willie Murphy, of course, helped out phenomenally on that one with like 10-year-old Redbreasts from back, and a Green Spot 10-year-old, which so trying to keep those tasting notes in my mind, because I'm not sure when I'm going to get to try that one again. And then reaching out to people. So I think I remember emailing Matty Healy and Bone so about the Whistler, because I tried the Whistler 7-year-old cask strength, and I knew they had a 10-year-old. So I just said, is there any chance of maybe getting the 10-year-old a cask strength and letting people try that? And he said, oh yeah, no problem, we'll get that sorted out. So that's the type of thing. You just ask the question, and everyone's really helpful and really on board. I mean, it's great people. I remember the next one was with Seamus Lowry from Bushmills, and that was a phenomenal tasting. So he brought up some of the society favourites, something new, brought the Sexton along for people to try, lovely sherry matured only whiskey, and then the 16 and the 21-year-old and everything that we're favourite with. But then he brought some cask pull. So we went and actually got like a Madeira cask strength from and a rum cask strength from Bushmills, which was great to experience. So I was kind of thinking about that, going, well, that's a great way of approaching this. So maybe if we can get some of the favorites that people like, and maybe see, is there anything that they have to bring along, and even they love getting feedback from the members as well. So it's a great evening, like for people to go, what did you think of that? Lovely one from Dundalk. We had a great Eckingville one with Jarlath and Graham came down and had a lovely samples of the different expressions that were going to be released then as single cask expressions later on. And I think they enjoyed getting feedback from people about, because we put different casks on about different strengths and whether one might be better, stronger, or one might be better watered down. So, and it makes for a lovely engaging conversation on the evening too.
Yeah, that Dumbo's one was a great evening. I've just
lovely. It's so great to us. Yeah. So we started off with that Belfast coffee. Dave came down from 61 and put that on with the Bon Putchine, and then through the different Three Crowns, and then the PX12, and then the cask pulls, and of course that rum single finished single cask that I think you did a great interview with them about that as well when it was launched. So presentation.
No, I mean, one of the things I really enjoy is you don't just get to taste the whiskies that have been released. You get to taste whiskies that are, component parts of the whiskies, not just. And that's one of the things that I think is really valuable. And I suppose for the distilleries as well, and the producers, they get great feedback from the members, and the members are very knowledgeable. So it's a two-way process.
Yeah, well, I hope so. I mean, it's getting what people think. So, and also, it's for members giving their honest opinion as well, which is great. So, and it's all about trying to share expressions. So like, trying to work out, well, what does that cask finish do? Or what does that, what was how did the maturation aging of this do? And the idea is trying to get to learn something from it as well. So, I mean, I always like to have a tasting. So it's great to have a tasting with, something extra special that you won't be able to get as well. But also because, well, that's what an older whiskey will taste like in that sort of cask, or some expressions that they've pulled specifically for us. We did a very interesting one with Peter Mulryan and John Wilcox from Blackwater, which is all about historical style mash bills with different types of grains and working out what those grains do. So that was very interesting for me, to see what those different ratios of those grains would do through their distillation process, trying to hang on to what those grains offer distillation.
Yeah, I mean, we do get to try quite a lot of new make spirit off the distilleries as well, which is fantastic, So when you do go and taste the final product, it's nice to try and remember back what it was like as a new make product.
Yeah, to see what their core, where that DNA, not exactly how they describe their DNA, or knowing that that core, I suppose everybody would when you know as a Bushmills new make, you can see why then Bushmills goes in that direction. And when you're trying to sense a malt and you go, yeah, that's probably a Bushmills, all right. So that's true.
I mean, you became member. How long are you member now, Brian, president now?
Yeah, I became a member in early 2018. And then I only took over this year, so I was helping out with the events last year, and then they were looking for someone to volunteer. So I said, sure, I'll give a hand and see how that goes. So whatever, we're 9 months in, still here, and unfortunately we're in the middle of that pandemic.
I know. On the one side, you must pinch yourself. You must be pinching yourself on one side to say that there's so many distilleries to choose from, and you do meet every month, is it? Once a month, I think it is. But you occasionally have more than one.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. So we'll see what's on. So during the summertime, where it's normally a little bit quieter, it's so odd this year to try and talk about what's regular. But that's how we planned it. So but next month we're planning on trying to do 2. So that's the goal. So
2 every month, is it?
No, 2 next month, and then we'll see, maybe 2 next month. We'll see. It's all dependent on what's happening, on what plan we're at, and what free time people have. So we'll definitely have 1 a month, let's put it that way, and there may be some bonus ones.
Excellent. Yeah, some of the bonus ones where you have guest speakers in, and they might not even directly involve whiskey or a particular brand, but they might talk about a production process, or I find those very interesting, because that's not information that is readily available. And like you say, you do have a pool of experts in the society that you can pull from.
Yeah, it was great. We did a team tasting there last month, which was great fun, So we pulled from our cask committee. So we've got it's called a subcommittee. So we've got a group of people who are very knowledgeable about whiskey and maturation, and and have sampled more whiskeys than I would have ever had. So combining them all together. So people like Jack O'Shea, Matty Healy, Fiona O'Connor, Michael Fogarty, Willie Murphy, and Liam Smith. So great resource of people, all very all very interested in whiskey, and also very interested in trying to find unique offerings for the future. So we're laying down casks at the moment, really looking at to see, well, what can we do to maybe see, it's different nowadays. There's a lot of cask programs out there. So the team are trying to go, well, that's great that you have that offering. What about if we did this type of mash bill? Or what about if we try and source a cask and put that particular mash bill or that particular distillate into that cask? So we had a lovely also, as you were mentioning earlier on about those the resources that we have for members. So if members log into our website, there's a whiskey at home section. So we started doing a cask review. So we put that up online on our YouTube channel as well. So we have an Irish Whiskey Society YouTube channel. So the first one was with Cologne. So Brendan Carthy did a virtual tour of Cologne, which was fantastic, and then talked about our distillate with Jack O'Shea. We recorded one with Clonakilty, so Paul Corbett and Jack O'Shea having a chat, going around Clonakilty Distillery and talking about what we did with them. That's in process at the moment. So we're planning on trying to do that, and especially now with the lockdown on. So at least that's content for people to learn from. Yeah,
it must be challenging to come up with stuff all the time, though, under the lockdown.
That's great fun, though. To sit down and listen to Jack chatting away to a distiller. What more can you ask for? I mean, I could sit there and listen to that for the evening. It's great.
Yeah. How did you get involved, or how did you get interested in whiskey yourself?
Well, I suppose like anybody, there's a drinks cabinet in the in the parents' house, and you were looking around going, "What's all that? What's all that in there?" So, well, my father would have drunk Redbreast, so I suppose that probably, if I think back, maybe that would have been the first whiskey that I ever tried. But I remember going on a trip, actually a sort of an adventure holiday over to Mayo, based out of Ballina. So some lady called Rachel's Irish Adventures. So she does all these amazing trips through Ballina. So we were doing stand-up paddleboarding and hiking and all that kind of stuff. And then she mentioned, "Oh, well, I used to be a whiskey ambassador." And I said, "Oh, wow." And he goes, "Well, would you like to do a whiskey tasting?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." So I was with a friend of mine who's from Canada, who was a huge whiskey fan. But again, knew more about Scotch rather than Irish whiskey, so he was really keen to learn more. So that was really interesting for me, and kind of sparked my interest in it again. And then after 2017, when I had a bit more free time, I said, what'll I do? That looks like an interesting group of people. I'd seen some information about it and joined up, and found it great. I found it very informative, and learning. I'd learn more from these things and get to try more whiskies.
Yeah. Absolutely. And you took it quite far. You went and did some of the IBD modules as well. So
I went down to Cork Institute of Technology and did a module or two down there with about different parts of it. So I did think the yeast and fermentation. I was waiting for them to do the spirit analysis one. I decided I didn't need to do the distillery plant and design. That's getting a little bit too nitty-gritty.
Next year.
I'm not sure about flow and temperatures and everything, but I was hoping to go back and do the spirit analysis. That would be a very interesting thing for me. I've gone down and off my own bat to do the Middleton Academy, the full day one down there, which was phenomenal. And bumped into some very interesting people. Nick who does the WSET spirits analysis now, he was down there on that day, the first time I met him. And we had a really fantastic day with them down there, going through everything, and so just learning about it. But it's trying to pull that sort of information and maybe get a section of that and allow the members to learn a little bit about that in a tasting too. We had a phenomenal tasting with Kevin O'Gorman. That was probably our first virtual tasting. So we were thinking about what are we going to do to try and put a tasting on. So I was talking to Jared Garland, phenomenal man, Jared, and we were talking about trying to do maybe a wood finished style tasting, and we were planning on doing that, and then the COVID pandemic hit, so that was kind of put on hold for the moment. But then he said, "Well, Kevin would be quite happy to come and talk about wood effects and maturation." And I said, "Well, let's try the pot still pack." So there was the 4. We get Middleton with the Green Spot and the Powers Johns Lane and Redbreast 12 and Barry Crockett Legacy, and have those through the tasting, and that was worked out really, really well. So and Kevin was brilliant. Just very in depth and discussion on maturation, but then also step back and I talked all about the reason why the blending on these different the whiskies was interesting, and and then I suppose follows it maybe a month or a couple of weeks later, he's now head distiller down there as well. But a fantastic gentleman and very, very giving of his time. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely, really supportive, very supportive of the industry and other people.
Yeah.
But Brian, when you became president, what was your first objective? How did you want to put your stamp on? What things did you want to change?
Well, I wanted to keep it going and alive. So if nothing's broken, you try not to do anything to break it. So, but I was hoping maybe to do get those in mid-month tastings going a little bit more, and maybe try and branch out. So Wynn's Hotel is fantastic. It's actually quite challenging to go and find a location in Dublin and go, "Hey,
sure,
I'm going to bring 80 people along, and we're bringing all our own whiskey. Is that all right with you?" So. Yeah. Very good relationship with Wynn's Hotel, which is fantastic for a tasting, but it doesn't sometimes allow the socializing as much. So I was hoping to maybe bring that a little bit in and have options. So that's what those mid-month tastings were for. And then we'd focused on doing distillery trips this year. So Bart has been fantastic about it, and had already organized 2 distilleries. So we were in Tullamore Dew, and then we'd already gone up to GND, and that was in the first 3 months of the year. So we had quite a lot of them more on as well. So Dr. Jack O'Shea, my apologies, June.
Yeah, you're gonna be in trouble. Yeah.
Hey, Lee, sorry, I just saw a message there from Liam. Thanks very much. Yeah, Liam, we had a great evening there. It's nice to meet you at that. So we, so the idea was to try and like get out there a little bit more as well and run some organized trips and events. But so we were doing very well. I mean, it was about a week before the pandemic hit that we got up to GND and got. So Dr. Jack O'Shea was very helpful in organising that up with John and everybody up in GND and Mr. Watts. So we had another one's planned, but they're on hold while we're all
here.
Do
you want to tell us a little bit about the bottlings that have been done for the society? So obviously there's cask programs and then there's bottlings. So they've had some fantastic bottlings. In fact, I have one of my all-time favorite whiskies. A little bit of it left is the Marrowbone Lane.
Good man. Well, I'm going to join you because that's an amazing whiskey. Exactly, a great example. So put together by the committee at the time, and again, so Peter White, Fionn O'Connor, Willie Murphy, and then working very closely with IDL about trying to find a pot still, and they came up with this, which is a fantastic expression. And again, has an element of that trad pot in it, which is just something sublime. So. We've a great presentation by Leo Phelan on that. We did that in Bow Street. We had a lovely lineup. Then we also did that online afterwards, so that people could like revisit it again. And we all, if anyone had any of those expressions, they were able to join in. But to talk about the bottlings, so starting off, I think the first bottling they had was the Lochs. So Michael Slevin was very key to that. That was all about trying to find. That's the picture for the trad pot tasting.
That was a great evening.
It was a great lineup. Yeah, so we had things like the Redbreast de la Maison de Whiskey 15-year-old. There's the Powers Aviation release. That's the IWS Marrowbone Lane. Jameson 15-year-old pot still. There was a Redbreast 21 there at the beginning, and that secret special one was actually a cask strength Redbreast 21, which again was trying to lock that into the memory banks, because I don't know when I'll get an opportunity to try something like that again. But sorry, going back to the Lochs Grand Cru. So Michael Slevin was part of the Waterways group, and as Kilbeggan being on the canal and everything, organised that. Was there any way of trying to get a bottle of whiskey for this, and to have that launch with the society? So they put that together again. Always lots of work. Then it moved through a couple of IDL's expressions. So everything from pot still. There's a single grain. The Marrowbone Lane. Then joined up with Teelings as well, and did two with Teelings was a blend, and then a 10-year-old with a Carcavelos, which is a special fortified wine. It's not a white, but not technically a white port, but it's a fortified wine from just outside of Lisbon. Then they were all bottling, so they were us going out to people who had whiskey and like trying to formulate something or get samples and see what would be involved. Now this is go ahead there.
The Kilbeggan one as well. The Kilbeggan Rye is one that was yours as well, isn't it?
So I'll go through the Kilbeggan one now in a minute. Yeah, so that was a pot still with some oats in it. So but the bottlings that were done, huge work done by the committee at the time. So before my time, so I can't really speak for them, but I've got a chance to try a few of them at different tastings. But basically going off and talking to the industry about trying to find a bottling and release it that way. So most of those up behind me would be bottlings from those expressions. And then the very first cask release that we did was laying down a cask with Kilbeggan Distillery. Again, at the time, with the committee there at the time, and with John Cashman, who was there, very helpful to us on that, and put down at that time they were doing a little bit of mash bill experimentation. So
that was Alex Chasko, wasn't it?
Alex Chasko, exactly, yes.
Yeah.
So they did a pot still that had about I think about 2.5% rye, 2.5% oats. Apologies, sorry, you got rye in my head there now. Sorry, oats in it, and it just changed the profile a little bit. So that was our first cask that we bottled ourselves, and that came out last year. So. That's great. Yeah, thanks, John. I know it's fantastic. And I think actually, thanks to John Marinan, actually gave me my first sample of Marrowbone Lane.
Yeah, so John's been very generous with samples. He's shared some fantastic stuff with me.
Not this. Great. Nice one, Mick. Yeah, I'm glad to see. That's great. lovely. So we've got the first cask release. So that was actually getting a cask, opening it, and then trying to find out how do you put that out, about getting bottles, and then getting it out to the membership. So that was when the cask program had started. So that was the first cask that was laid down about 2011. So it was released as an 8-year-old whiskey last year, and then we have a cask program that's continued from there. So the next one that was laid down was a very interesting one with the Dingle, when the Founding Fathers one was started. So it was laid down there, and then from then on in, we've got a lot of casks laid down. So if you go onto our website, onto our cask page, there's a rating there. So everyone from Ecklinville, the Shed, West Cork, then and up to more recent times. So they've been down with Cologne and Clonakilty. So we've got quite a few different expressions going along there.
We have a few exciting releases, but we have to wait a few years.
Well, that's it. That's the thing. So we're filling casks there in January. I mean, I better hang around for a while. Yeah.
What's coming out? Is there anything coming out this year, Brian?
We'll see. Yeah. So the COVID situation has been a challenge. So we're trying to work on something. We'll see.
Yeah. What's the thinking behind doing cask programs and bottlings?
What's thinking is behind is the membership want it, and it also it offers an extra benefit to be a member, and it allows the relationship with distilleries to grow and form, and it's and it also allows us to maybe look and see what would happen if this type of mash bill was used, or what would happen if we lay it down in this cask, or we use recask it into this cask, and for our members to learn that this expression came from this background, so
obviously the distillery visits and tours are off the cards for the moment, but had you any lined up over the summer and over the
we had a few we had a few lined up, so but again they're just on pause until we can get reorganized again. So with Dublin being in our particular phase at the moment, we're not. I mean, I'd gone over to Wins once or twice after they were able to reopen to do measuring and work out how would we manage to do this with the public health guidance that was in place. Would we do 2 shifts of things and try and do a clean in between, and would people want that? Because it is a social society, so we're trying. When you're trying your best and we're trying our best, so we're here online all digital. No one else here, but there's a group of people hopefully listening still connected. How long have we been talking for?
I know they haven't gone home. No homes to go to, but in terms of future events, have you anything in terms of the committee members tasting? Presumably, is that scheduled or is it on hold?
We did a team tasting this year, so we had again Michael and Lee, and we had Jack and Fiona and Matty, and we got Peter White and Finn to do their Dick Mac's latest Rises Tears expression. So we've the next one that's coming up is a bourbon tasting. That's going to be with High Spirits, but we're hoping to do maybe an interesting mid-month tasting that's going to jump around the country again. It's because when Bart was amazing, he had I know you're working on this here, so luckily there's just me, but if you had me and 5 other people all queued up to talk, someone else has to try and deal with all that. So well done, Andrew. It's all about trying to pop them in. So we found out that we could do it, so we might try and do a hopping around to different locations in a mid-month tasting. And I'll talk about we'll talk about that later on. I don't want until it's locked in. I'm not going to tell you, but still keep an eye on your pressure.
Tell me, Brian, if somebody wants to join, what's involved, and do the members have to be Dublin based? Can they be anywhere? Can they be international?
So the membership, the key thing that the society did was run events, and the majority of the members were based around the Dublin area, but people would travel from different Wexford up for the night and everything as well. So I suppose it depended on traveling. We have a chapter down in Dingle, so there's people in the area down there who were involved in the Dingle chapter. since we've gone on to virtual tastings, we would have had members distributed around Ireland, so they've been able to hop on to the virtual tastings. So it will be interesting to see how that will work. So at the moment, we've been put in a position where we've had to reach out a little bit further than a geographic area, and it seems to be working out. But again, we'd have to kind of look at it and see. It's a small group of volunteers who run this, so it's about trying to get a group of people together to make sure that we can keep it going. So because if we start doing it and then we stop doing it, or it starts stopping and stopping, you don't want to be committing to something and then not be able to make it
so
happen.
If somebody wants to actually sign up, they just go to your website and
pay the
membership fees.
And then you get a newsletter. So all the members get a newsletter every month. Then you get reminders about any events that are coming out, and you get notified 2 days before an event's going to go open for booking, so that you can go online to be on time to do it. We get again, the numbers are dictated by how many bottles of whiskey might be available, or how many people we can fit in. So some will sell out faster than others, but we try.
Some of them sell out in minutes.
They do. But I think all societies are finding that as well, especially in the current situation. That depending on what it is, that things can go very quickly. I mean, I live in Dublin, but I'm a member in different societies too, because I'm also a fan. So with my Irish Whiskey Society hat on, so I'm a member in the Aviators and in the Cork Whiskey Society. I was a member of the Kilkenny Whiskey Guild for a year. That was just a bit more challenging to get up and down to. But I've been tastings around, and I go down to the Dingle chapter regularly, because there's some fantastic tastings done down there as well. So I shoot around the country depending on what's on offer, and seeing if I'll learn more or try something that I wouldn't get to try normally.
Yeah. What's your relationship with the other societies, actually? I mean, do you collaborate? Do you make sure you don't clash? Do you?
Well, for in Dublin, for sure, myself and Paul and the Aviators would try and make sure that we weren't running things on the same night. So, I know we started doing a mid-month tasting, and we reached out to each other just to go, listen, what night are you planning on doing that on, so that we didn't put it on, because there's we have members in our membership who are members of both as well, and members in our membership that are members of other whiskey societies around the country too. So you're trying not to try and clash too much. It's very challenging at the moment. There's so much available online. Sometimes, it's I know it might look neat behind me here, but there's another shelf over there now that has about 100 tiny little mini bottles from all the different whiskey festivals that have been online, and whiskey tastings that have been online over the last few months. So it's a challenge at the moment to try and keep things going and make sure things are interesting, and that we put it on the right night. So we might move a night sometimes, depending if for availability, or it's a little bit, thankfully it's a bit more flexible now, but we're also trying to keep it on the same night, because people are regular with that. So we were trying our best to
speaking of your room there, I saw in the pre-sound check, so you've done a fantastic job in a couple of hours there to tidy up everything, Brian. So
I was changing. I thought I'd better change the shelves. There was far too many little miniature bottles all over the place, so it looked like I was running some sort of strange lab or something here. So
well, it has to be done. Laurie, there was talk of other chapters. So at the moment, we've just got the Dingle chapter. Is the possibility of new chapters in the future, or is there the American chapter? The Irish Whiskey Society of America. How is that linked? Is that linked to you guys?
So originally, again, when I took over, I didn't quite know an awful lot about it, but chatting to some of the committee at the time. So back originally, there was a few Americans who come over to Ireland, and especially when Whiskey Live was taking place, and involved to say, is there any way of starting up the Irish Whiskey Society in America? So back at that time, they did. I think it was used to run out of Massachusetts, as far as I know, maybe out of Boston.
I think it's Alan is one of the founding members there.
Okay, so there was a group of people who were running that, but then they kind of went a bit more virtual instead. So at the moment, it's just it's linked that from historical purposes. We're not co-linking running events or anything at the moment, but that was one of the ideas as well. When I was looking at the society and seeing what I was getting involved with, just try and reach back out again. And then also, we've been approached by different areas in Ireland about maybe starting up a chapter, but it requires a group of people who have a bit of an understanding of what's involved and the effort that's required, and that they have the free time to do it. So we'll see what happens. So
very good. Tell me, what do you make now of all this, the resurgence, if you like, of Irish whiskey, the way it has evolved over the maybe last 4 or 5 years? Because when the society joined, what did you have? 4 distilleries at most.
That's a good point. Yeah, so it's I mean it's great. So there's loads and loads to choose from, and the idea is to try and make sure that the objectives of society, we're completely impartial and not linked to any one entity or anything. So we're trying to share a selection of whiskey. So the last month's one, there was a range of whiskeys from different different distilleries, different expressions, and then even different parts of the world. Michael Fogarty wanted a Scotch.
Yeah.
And I'd beg on that. So again, we're talking about trying to see, can we do that? There's there'd be like people who maybe have only 1 or 2 expressions. So we're looking at going, well, maybe we'll do a testing with some indie bottlers, with some smaller distilleries. So distilleries who might have some bottlings that mightn't have an expression of their own yet. So yeah, it's a good thing that we have loads to choose from, and then but it's also then trying to get time to choose them all. So so that's a challenge for us that we need to step up.
How are they chosen, Brian? Is it a committee that decides, or is it members that come up with suggestions? How do you determine what's going to happen?
We do a survey every year, asking for people what they're involved with, and I get emails in with people asking me, going, what about doing this such and such a theme or a topic? We've got some fantastic people involved. Again, like Leo, I chat to Leo regularly about maybe some ideas that he'd like to do for some specialized tastings. Again, Fionn O'Connor and Willie Murphy about those. Then more generally, Bart, who's taken over as events manager, goes out and looks at some ideas. I might see something like, oh, there's a new expression of that coming out. That's interesting. So I know we did one with Teelings with Alex, was great. We hadn't had a tasting with Alex for a while. So we look back and go, how recently have we had a tasting with somebody to make sure that we're giving everyone a fair go? So we hadn't had one with Teelings for a while. So they were just launching their Brabazon 3, but then they also, had have their Black Pits single malt, peated single malt coming out. So we asked, was there any chance we could get to try that? So that put a tasting together very, very nicely. So it's about that. So we present those ideas to the team, or the committee team, and we chat about it and go, what do you think for this lineup? And everyone goes, yeah, that's a good idea. Or people might go, actually, let's see if we might work a little bit more on that one to see if there's other expressions that we might be able to get. Should we hold on that and see if we can get some extra special bottles? And then I'm always have ideas in my head about things, just chatting to people about stuff. So laying down bottles. So a few bottles behind me there on another shelf that might be used at a tasting. So a few old ones from different distilleries back in the day. So we might try and do one of those maybe at some point. I'd love to do that in person, though. Really like to try to person event.
And is what are you aiming for in terms of releases a year? Is it 1 bottling a year, 2 bottlings a year? What's
1 year at the moment? Yeah, is what we're aiming for. Yeah, again. So as it's a voluntary position dictated on the free time of our free time, 1 year is pretty good going. It's a fair pack of work to get it done. I mean, if this. It's like that thing, you're trying to balance it. It's in a sort of happy place at the moment. I mean, it could grow, but then I think we need to get a few more people involved and see where it goes. But
I mean, you're funded just by membership. You're not funded by any of the distilleries. It's completely membership based, and for the events, you charge for the events as well. Then,
so the idea is, we're self-funding, and the aim is we break even, and at events, and make sure that we can look at an event and say, well, actually, maybe we'll get another bottle on it. So let's think of an example there. So say for Fionnan's Rye event, we were looking at the budget for it, and we said, okay, well, listen, could we get a Booker's Rye? And we looked at see how much a Booker's Rye was, and I went, I don't know, can we get a Booker's Rye? We'll see. But you do the maths and you make it work, and you look at the expressions that are available, and you get it. So again, you try to find maybe a bottle that's a little bit a bottle that would be hard, even going to a bar to get a sample of that bottle, or a touchdown of that whiskey would be a multiple of the cost of the ticket price. That's the idea.
Yeah, I mean, when all this COVID business comes to an end, do you think you'll keep the virtual events?
That's a question we've been asked, and we've had a little chat about it. I don't know. I mean, the real core idea of the society is that social aspect. but there's people dotted around the country who have asked that question as well. So it's something. I mean, I'd love to get feedback from the members about this. So I want to put out now that we've done a few, I want to put out a survey just to ask people's thoughts on that. So you're trying not to change the dynamic of how the society operates, but you're also trying to make sure you're trying to keep as many people happy as possible. So I'm open to anyone giving me feedback on that.
Yeah. How do you attract new members?
So we've social media channels, people share our events. I mean, I've got people emailing in from different parts of the world, asking, can they look at our virtual tastings? So that's why we started our YouTube channel, was to try and help them a little bit. And so, so it's also word of mouth, so we have people coming along. We were able to, in our in-person events, we were able to, people were able to bring guests along. So that allowed to, sort of see what was involved, that it wasn't too scary, that, you weren't asked any whiskey questions, or there wasn't an exam before you were allowed in the room, that you could just sit there and enjoy it and relax. So it's word of mouth as well. And, and it's much and all as it's a very busy industry. Ireland's a small country, so you meet people very quickly and get to meet people and share information very quickly, So,
is there a maximum size that you'd see the committee reach, or the society reaching, before it becomes unmanageable? Or
yeah, it's a good question. We've got quite a lot of members at the moment. Let's put it that way. So
380 is no joke. That's a serious amount of members. And the Wynns Hotel can only hold 80, is it?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. So again, that was another reason why we started some of the mid-month events as well, was just to make sure that if someone wasn't able to get to one at the end of the month, we could do it in the middle of the month. Now, again, that's split over 2 chapters as well. So there's a group of people down in Dingle. And again, not every event is going to appeal to everybody. So there's a little bit of self-management with numbers there. I mean, we do have some members who are interested more in the bottlings as well, So that's their key interest. And then some members are happy to stay on, and maybe there's 3 or 4 events that are big of interest to them, and they'll go along to those ones. So it's sort of self-managing at the moment. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think one of the nice features, actually, and it's how I got started, was you could go without being a member. You still pay, of course, you pay a little bit more, but it's a nice way to be introduced to it. You may, you can decide then, is it for you or not? So it would be good to keep that. I hope they do keep that you can bring guests, or you can come if you're not a member.
Yeah, that was it. So I mean, in the last 2 years, because some of the events were so popular, it sold out to members. So we'd give the members would get an option to purchase the ticket first. So and then after a period of time, if there were any spaces left, we could open it to non-members. So they'd become basically an associate member for the evening of the tasting. So they'd be technically a member of the society for the period of the tasting. So that was an option. So that took place as well. So you'd have tickets available to people after the members had purchased theirs, and then sometimes if it was during the summertime, remember when people used to go on holidays? It was a bit quiet. So that sometimes the tastings would be a little quieter just because people were off on holidays all the time. So maybe the regulars were away, so there was opportunities for people to bring some guests along. So we let that happen as well. So
Yeah. And looking at the industry as it lies now, and what's currently happening in the development of new distilleries, the growth and interest in Irish, what are the trends that are exciting you most in Irish whiskey?
Right. Wow. Well, yeah. I mean, I'm finding it very interesting to see a lot about all the different types of finishing that's taking place. Everything from beer finishes, to different types of woods. The work that's happening on mash bills now, so people are talking maybe a little bit about the grains that are inside whiskey, but there was a lot of experimentation being done. I mean, there's the Kilbeggan rye, which had a big chunk of rye in it, and that was very interesting for me to see that. I mean, there was another one. I think there was the Glendalough Mizunara, Japanese oak. Which just sent that off in a completely different trajectory to me. Still not quite sure what the trajectory is. I have to keep going back and trying it, but I found it very interesting, and enjoyed it. So those type of seeing a little bit of the experimentation, and then also seeing some incredible releases coming out. Like, so, people moving to maybe a cask strength offering that's very popular at the moment. Allowing then the consumer to try it and then decide out what dilution point does it work perfectly for them. So things like the red breast 12-year-old cask strength.
Sure, yeah.
Or even some of the new expressions that come out. Like, so that's where the society comes in, I think, and society, all the societies in general, that they might get a bottle of whiskey that would cost maybe €500 or so to go and get, or if you were going to try and get a measure of it in a bar, it's going to be expensive, 40 or 50 euros maybe. And on the night of the tasting, your ticket costs maybe 20 or 25 euros. You get to try that, and that's a great thing, to be able to try different whiskies that would be out of reach.
And usually with the distiller or at least the brand ambassador talking about them as well. So you're not hearing secondhand marketing; you're hearing directly from the.
Very much.
That's a big
notes, I have to say, from all the different tastings I go to. I've a great. I was at one recently by it was a Powers one with Derek
King.
Who basically did a deconstruction of John's Lane and a deconstruction of Three Swallows. And I can tell you, I've about 5 or 6 pages of notes on that one, and fantastic experience. It's a deconstruction, so looking at the first fill, second fill bourbon, first fill sherry, and then the cask conversion of John's Lane. Which I got to try for the first time, I think, up in you were working with Paul up in Belfast Whiskey Week, which was festivals this year. So he put on a festival this year and had that in one of the expressions as one of the expressions. The first time I got to try it, so it was great to try it then, and then also get it deconstructed. So I found that phenomenally interesting, and would love to share something like that with people as well.
What are your hopes for the future?
Well, I hope future that we can get back to normal tastings. Would be a big hope. And I hope that, I mean, it's great to see people, staying members. There's a little bit of anxiety going, we're not doing exactly the same thing. Are people going to be as interested? So, there has been a little bit of time. I can understand it's also a very challenging time for people. The economy is completely changed. So for some people, this, it might have been a like to have rather than a need to have. So it's about trying to ensure, hopefully the membership core stays together, and that we're working, really hard to try and come up with things that keep people engaged. So for the future, I hope members stay members. I hope it's an interest. I hope it's remains interesting for them, and that we can get back to actually sitting beside each other and chatting about whiskey and such.
You mean in person, dealing with people? That's going to be a change for a lot of people. Yeah, it's strange times. Brian, I have to say, you really brought an energy and rejuvenation to the society that I think is really well respected and admired. You've done a fantastic job. You brought whiskies that are not normally approachable. You've done castings and bottlings that are very, very interesting, and the organization behind everything. And I'm sure even now with this typical situation, you've done an amazing job. So hats off to you. Really admire what you've done.
It's thanks to the group of people. So it's a team of people all I can pick up a phone, ask a question, and get an answer, and I love that. Very, very helpful group of people as well, helping it all along. So well, I'm glad you're enjoying the tastings. That's the most important thing.
Well, the tastings are fantastic as well, and actually just even getting a chance to speak to people, I think I really enjoy that. So, well, what are your any personal plans for the next while? Or are you're not taking any trips away, or?
No, stay well. Make sure Mum stays happy, and keep. I mean, one thing is I've been able to catch up on a few whiskey books, which has been fantastic. So we did another thing we're doing is going to try and reach out to people who've written a few books. So we had a lovely chat with Ben Birdstill, who wrote the Whiskey Burn book. That Irish Whiskey Distilleries by Vespa. I think that's the subtitle of it. So Jack was chatting away to him on that, which is fantastic. So we're working on putting that footage together too. So those type of things, I'm looking forward to catching up on a few more books, doing a bit more research, and seeing where we go from there.
Excellent. Any thoughts on the Whiskey Bible yourself?
Yeah, I'd never bought it, so I'd never read it. So that was news to me. Let's put it that way. So But I think it's another great thing about the whiskey industry at the moment is the phenomenal amount of amazing women involved in it now.
Sure.
And getting to meet people at the tastings. And then going to the distilleries and meeting everybody who's involved, from everyone like from Royal Oak and Bushmills and Tipperary and Chapelgate, and it's great for the industry.
Yeah, great. Listen, Brian, thank you very much for your time. You've been a fantastic guest and a fantastic ambassador for Irish whiskey. I think you've done great things for the membership there and great things for the society. And hopefully next year we'll bring better times that we can actually do meet in person and actually to get to do some trips. So nice comments there from lots of people.
Out there and have a look around and see how we get on. So brilliant. There's Liam saying he's great. He's reading A Glass Apart. Yeah, so that's good.
Always here by my side, The Glass Apart.
Yes, I'll continue going. There was an answer to that question I have in my head in here. So yeah. So good. Listen, thanks, Sergius. I really appreciate you asking me.
Thank you very much. And again, if anybody wants to sign up and find out more information, irishwhiskeysociety.com. There's some lovely resources up there, and even for accessing those resources, the membership is worth it, I think. So
great, thanks. Yeah, and then the YouTube channel's there, and then we're on Facebook and Twitter and all the other Instagrams, all those other.
Snapchat and Bebo and everything else that's out there. TikTok. All right, Brian. Look, thank you very much. Take care. Bye. That's great. Thanks to Brian for that insight into trying to manage a society under the conditions that they are. He's done a fantastic job. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've enjoyed the show, you could subscribe to our YouTube channel, please. It all helps. And we have a very interesting guest next week lined up. I think you'll know who they are as soon as we mention them. And we'll announce that later on in the week. So same time, same place next week. And have a great week and look after yourselves. Stay safe. Thank you very much.